It's Operation Babble with Myke Shrews. It's pop culture, music, movies, TV too. It's time to explore life. It's Operation Babble time.
That's it, Michael. Never again. We're not fucking bringing on guests ever again. Tivis, you're the last one. Tivis, you're the last one. No,
Tivis isn't even the guest anymore. He's a host.
Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry.
Doi.
I apologize for assuming your position. My issue here is it's got to be me because I smell, right?
Maybe people are finally listening to the podcast before they come on.
Correct. You may have
It's
something
because
there.
the podcast is actually growing, so maybe people are finding it easier now and are actually listening before they come on. Before
And
we
they're
were
like,
able to sucker
"Oh,
everybody before they listened in.
Yeah.
No, I'm not sure what's going on, but we were supposed to have a guest on today.
Just like last week.
She might pop in still later. We don't know. We'll see.
She is
within
from
the next
across
few.
the pond. She is living across
Yes.
the pond at the time, so there is like a 6-hour difference
Difference.
between us. So there is a good chance she's either working, forgot, or sleeping.
Right.
So hopefully we'll either hear
And-
from her at some point today or maybe reschedule.
And if she forgot, trust me, I don't care because I forget sometimes
I've
that
done
we're
it.
going to record.
Well, are you running on like 3 hours of sleep, you said?
yes.
Yeah, actually, you almost literally said that you forgot today. You're like, oh shit, I gotta go do that.
Right. Yeah. All right. So she actually just messaged me, guys. So we might be just
Look at
starting.
that. Look at the
Awesome.
timing. Yeah, we gave
So-
it a 30-minute wait time. We were like, we'll figure it out. And then at some point we do as we classically do, as most people probably do. We were all on Myke just chilling, not like on Michael the host, but we were all on Myke and just sitting in the back room essentially talking, and it's like, okay, we've said about 50 things that should be on the podcast. And we're like, okay, let's maybe do this quick. So,
Yeah.
but so far, what was one of the points that we started? You guys won't shut the hell up about fucking Power Rangers.
Hey. Power Rangers is awesome. So,
Power Rangers are awesome.
our PM awesome.
Well done. That was well done. I'm speechless. I'm upset, but I'm speechless.
All right. No, because Tivis has watched Power Rangers RPM. I'm not sure if he finished finally.
Watched a lot of Power Rangers.
We're not going to talk about it on this episode, but I finally started. In 2 days, I watched 15 episodes, and it's 32 episodes, I believe. So
Yeah.
I'm
Like
almost
20, like
I'm almost
22
done.
minutes or
Yeah, they're
something?
only like 20
Yeah.
minutes long. So, and with my kid at homeschool during the day when I'm not doing this,
Yeah.
I just sit here in the office and
Yeah.
edit and shit, so I can just have it on. And
He watches the kids show when his kid can't watch.
I know, right? Isn't that great? Can I say, and I want everyone to know, just in case, Michael is recording this episode from the sun, apparently. Hence,
am I blown out again?
Hence his Casper-like complexion. It's all right. That milky skin, you know.
There you go.
Yeah, a little better. Yeah, I'll take it.
There. I also have the actual sun blaring through my window in the back too, so
yeah.
I can't really. I don't want it too bright in the back and in the front. Anyways, audio people can't tell that, and they're the ones
yeah.
that we do this show for. So fuck the
Ooh,
video people.
Yeah, get fucked, all you YouTubers. VeggieTube. What is it?
I mean, they get to look at our
Porn-
faces.
Pornhub,
so they're
I think we
already
put
kinda
this on.
punished.
RedTube and Pornhub? Cool.
We should put this on Pornhub.
Why not? A platform is a platform. Clout is clout, my guy. Clout,
Right?
What are we talking?
I don't know how to do that though.
You
Come here at the
you don't know how to do a
emergency
clip?
signal.
No, I don't know how to upload to the porn sites. I'm
I just-
assuming it's just
I
like
just know
YouTube.
I just know how to view things on Pornhub. I don't know how to be a contributor.
Sure. Make sure you put your phone in private mode and then go to Pornhub.com.
Incognito. Guys, I don't know why I'm holding this pen, but it's like my fucking safety blanket today. I'm just having I'm like.
Gotta get you a fidget spinner.
Well, actually, I have a couple of those, and I have the like fidget cube thing that has like.
The cube
6
was
things.
interesting.
It was all right. It was kind of
I've
fun.
never used the cube. I couldn't figure the cube. Like, what are you supposed to do with the cube? Like, I've seen it, and it has like a bunch of click clacks and all that shit. Or you're supposed to fidget with it. I'm assuming because it's a fidget cube. Fucking hell, I'm stupid as shit right now.
That shocked me a little bit, actually. Like, that was perfectly timed for me.
My wife just told me she's buying the new Britney Spears vinyl. Okay.
That is funny that you fucking bring that up.
Wait, there's a new Britney Spears like album, or
no, they're probably printing like one of the old songs or like a best of on vinyl. Is that what you're saying? Or is she actually putting out a new record?
It looks to be like it might be new, but I'm not sure. I don't follow that stuff.
Boo. It's so funny you fucking say that because before we got on today, my buddy Grant sent me on Facebook. I don't fucking use Facebook, just pretty much only to get the link that Michael sends me every week to get on here. It was a video of this black dude in a red, white, and blue shirt with like a little sweater over it, fucking going hard on the choreography for "It's Gonna Be Me."
it's gonna be me.
I forgot how fire that fucking song is. I want you to also know that I know that choreography really well because I was one of those dickheads. Because you remember when the choreographer used to put, because he was like the same choreographer for fucking everybody, Britney Spears, Christina, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, all that. He put out a video showing off the choreography for his like top videos. I fucking bought the shit out of that. It's Gonna Be Me and Bye Bye Bye. I knew those back to front, my dude.
Good songs.
Yeah, there you go, everybody. I'm
I got to
idiot.
Got to admit, Lance
NSYNC is better. NSYNC is better than Backstreet Boys. Fucking at me.
Lance Bass is
Gay.
He was NSYNC, and he's gay. I gotta tell you, when we were in elementary school, before he came out,
He was sync. Yes.
we always used to make fun to the girls in elementary school that Lance was gay. And I just wanted to say, I'm glad that my gaydar is still perfect.
It's fire.
So,
I
it's
understand.
fire.
Boing.
Although, I did not know that, Tivis, you gave us some information. The guy who played
Whistleblower.
Captain Cold, what is his name?
Wentworth Miller.
Wentworth Miller. I didn't know he was gay, but he backed out of the project for Prison Break. Is that the show?
The Prison Break revival.
So it wasn't like a reboot. It was like they were going to continue it then.
Well, they already did that, didn't they? They did an extra season like a couple
They
years
did,
ago.
yeah. I thought they did.
used the term reboot, so I wonder if they were just going to like start over and have some of the old cast be in it. I don't know. I didn't watch the show.
Rory's
I'm sorry,
doing
I'm the guy
really
you-
good. Mick Rory's doing really good on Legends, so don't fuck with that character, guys. Like,
Well, he's only in like 5 minutes of every
don't
episode.
care. Don't give him a reason to not show up for those 5 minutes.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Let's say we watch. Bringing up NSYNC, we watch Masked Singer, and
Oh, shit.
Joey Fatone was on a season, and I called it immediately. Like the very first time he came on, I'm like, "That's him."
That Joey
He
Fatone
was-
was good?
On Masked Singer? Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, I thought you meant like as a judge.
No. He was a contestant.
Every time he shows up on Impractical Jokers, I love it. Because he runs like a hot dog company called the Fat Ones, Fatones.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
He was on an episode of Hannah Montana where he owned like an Italian restaurant.
I can see that.
Yeah.
He gives off that Italian owner, like,
Why? Because he's
Look.
fat?
Yeah.
Gabagool!
basically.
Gabagooli!
I did see
John, you could
Boys
own
in
an Italian restaurant too.
Dude, I fucking get every ethnicity except white for some reason. Even though I'm white as the ghost.
Except
penis.
white? I thought everyone just assumed you were just white, and
Well,
that's why you get so much shit.
It's what I figured too, and especially having like obviously the neo-Nazi dome. Like,
Well, I mean, okay. First of all, we got to address this from last week. Mr. Half Mexican over here.
I'm a gringo. Calm down. All right, fine.
You said Mexican words instead of Spanish.
Do you think maybe I was fucking taking the piss? Like, did you not think that maybe I was being an idiot?
No, because I looked at the video. You were straight up like you were not joking.
To be
I
fair,
didn't catch it, so
I will say, fine. If it is a fuck up, it's a fuck up. But I will make the argument for I don't believe we speak English. We speak American, and I'm pretty sure most people in the UK would probably corroborate that. I'm
they
going to
are
throw that out
kind
there
of distinct.
because I would make the argument that
There are different dialects of
Yeah.
Spanish too.
because what you're getting in Spain, you ain't getting that shit down in fucking Guatemala.
and Mexico and even Cuba are different dialects as well. I get that. So,
But
In Canada,
to be
just
fair,
who knows
to
what
be
To be fair.
that was probably a gigantic fuck up.
I'm taking your Mexican card. My Mexican wife even told me I'm allowed to take your Mexican card
Oh,
for that one.
it's fine. I already went to college, so I don't need it anymore. Yeah, it's funny, dude. It's all the time. Like people will come up. I've gotten Greek. I assume it's because like the prominent eyebrows, dark hair, and the big nose, or I get Italian constantly.
With
And
your
I'm like,
bald
well, okay,
head,
so
I
fine.
wouldn't think you're anything but whitey.
Bruh. I'm telling you. Like, don't get me wrong.
This
if I
got
go out in
really
the sun-
racial really fast.
I
but
know.
Still.
I know. But like, if I go out in the sun, like I tan really good. Like
Yeah.
I'll get sunburnt for like a day or two and like be miserable, and then I'll tan, and then like, no joke, I looked fucking like almost Dominican when I was a lifeguard for like 4 years because I was in the sun like for fucking 8 hours a day. And
Oof.
yeah, it was insane. I was dark as dicks. Well, depending on whose it is. I don't know. You're
How's that
still
look?
in the camera, so
There
it
we
looks
go.
like shit.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry if I look like a hobo too. I cut the beard a couple of weeks ago and I immediately regretted it. So that bitch is coming.
You just let it go.
I'm bringing it back. I'm bringing it back.
I
The
can't.
beard will stay on until I get rid of my 2 extra chins. I can't fucking do it, man. I can't.
Wear
can't
that
handle
stuff with pride.
No, can't do it. It's like, at least like when I would like tilt down, I'd be like, oh, it's all hair. They can't tell. It's fine. Tickle my chest with
I
my
say
own fucking face.
for next year's Halloween, guys. I know we're past Halloween, but next year's Halloween, if all three of us are kind of looking about the same, I say we dress up like Family Guy characters, and I'll be Quagmire. John, you can be Joe, and then
I gotta be in the
Tivis
fucking
can be
wheelchair.
what's his name? What's the guy's name?
Peter?
The main, Peter, the main fucking
Yeah,
character.
I knew
Peter.
it.
Yeah.
Not if they're gonna make him Peter. I want to be Lois. No, I'll be Meg.
Shut up, Meg. Yeah, perfect. That works perfect.
I would much better be. I would be way better to be Meg.
Shut up, Meg. Because you get it all the time too. Anyway, I mean,
I know. It's fine. Justified that. Just
There we
it's-
go.
It's perfectly fine. Guys, I don't know. I don't know what I got. We've got a lot to talk about yet. Because we fucked up twice, 2 weeks in a row. All my talking points were for a guest.
maybe we should try to figure out. I would. It'd probably be easier for guests to show up if we did later showings, but yeah.
I don't know. Two in the afternoon doesn't seem that bad.
That's true. They're 5 hours ahead.
Yeah.
Well, for
saying.
6 for and 7 for people California.
And what's wrong with doing it in the morning? I like doing stuff in the morning. Actually forces me to get out of fucking bed. Because this is my day off from. I get Wednesdays and Thursdays off from my day job, so it's like this works perfect for me. Because otherwise, I just fucking sleep till noon. Why even bother getting out of bed? The world is burning. It all sucks.
So I found out about the show called Saint Elsewhere, and it angers me.
Yeah.
Elaborate.
That show connected, I think the list is like over 300 television shows into a shared universe.
Isn't it like Twin Peaks? Wasn't
It's,
Twin
it's
Peaks
supposed to
like
be about like some kind of doctor show, and then at the very end, it's revealed it's like it's in some kid's imagination. So they reference all these other shows. So all those shows that reference them are in this kid's imagination, and it's just
It was all a dream.
Wait. I don't know. I got nothing. I got nothing for that.
it's so weird.
The beard's
I don't like it.
That's an ad hom.
That's a what?
I'm not cool with it. An ad hominem? No?
Oh.
All right, cool. Whatever.
Okay.
Does anyone
faces.
else get irrationally angry at?
At?
Instead of saying like AT-AT?
Yes. The ATST isn't called ATST.
Just
TST.
just wait till they replace the actual leathers with the at symbol. 2 at symbols.
That's fucking hilarious. I will stand that change. As of right now, I implore everyone to do that. Right.
Does anyone know where the at is?
Where's the at?
I shouldn't. Yeah.
Dude, I gotta watch me some Mars Attacks. That's some good
So
shit.
good.
Yeah.
It's fucking
I want to read
great.
the. It had a giant crossover with other IDW comics, and that looked fun. I think it was IDW.
Did it though?
Eh,
Did it look fun?
Yeah.
All right. I just stopped you right in your tracks. I'm sure.
All right,
guys.
So our guest finally did show up. Not finally.
Yay!
Oh my god, that sounds so bad. She showed up.
Fucking dickhead.
And I'm gonna let her into the conversation right now.
Ooh.
Here we go, guys.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. What up? Oh,
Oh.
I am gonna Jesse Spano so hard. I'm so excited that this is happening right now. It's like until I hear a voice that like the name across the board here is just gonna like build with excitement. It's like a title card. It's like I feel like a wrestler is about to come out of like the back room right now and just come running down the stage and say, "Hey, 3 of you shut up. I got things to say."
What? Oh, hi. Sorry.
Nailed it.
I got confused. I'm so sorry. I totally forgot that at the end of October is the end of whatever UK daylight savings time, so everything changes by an hour. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's why all my alarms were off. But
I forgot because we had it just like what it was like a week or
A
two
week ago? Yeah.
yeah, it's. I guess it's the same. I've been living in the UK for years, so I don't remember. But it screwed up all my calendars, and I was out at the store because I was like, I have to go get some food. I'm out of food, and I found the worst flavor of chips, the most posh flavor of chips ever imaginable.
You say posh?
Oh yeah, it is
no.
Kettle limited edition truffled cheese with a splash of English sparkling wine, and I had to get that. I mean, sorry, that's
My pretentious meter just like hit the red bar right there. I love it.
so
Are
I
they
was
good,
doing
though?
I haven't tried them yet. I'm afraid to. But anyway, so I was doing very important things. Obviously, it was very important business of buying these horrible chips.
Look,
Or toothpaste crisps.
extravagant nutrition is absolutely just it's important in every level.
I doubt there's any nutrition in there, but there's certainly something. Sorry, guys, for being late.
Well, no,
How's it
it's,
going?
No,
it's
you're
awesome. Had to put the martini glass down for 2 seconds and well, I guess kind of abrupt, I suppose. So if anybody doesn't know, kind of a weird little backstory for me. As you can tell, Mahler fan, EFAP. I believe one of your first episodes was like episode 53 or 4, I think. It was the Isle of Man one that makes me die every single time. It's because you guys covered Quentin, and that's how I kind of knew you, was from your review of Quentin Reviews talking about ContraPoints.
Mm-hmm.
And like kind of fangirling here a little bit, but I instantly fell in love. You guys were
Oh.
really, you guys were like
Thank you.
super funny, and so I was like, oh, it's Aydin, and I don't know who this is, and it's Aydin Paladin, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's how you go on YouTube as well.
Yep.
And so you bring a really fun dynamic to those guys because kind of, I guess, I'll give you a chance to just give yourself an intro, kind of what you do and like maybe like what your videos are and what your process is maybe, and then we can kind of go from there. Sure.
So basically I guess, I don't want to say philosophy behind videos because that sounds really pretentious, but I have a master's degree and I was a PhD student in communication with an emphasis on media psychology. And I thought it would be really fun, particularly, with everything that was happening around the 2016 election. I thought it would be fun to talk on YouTube about the intersection of media and politics and psychology, particularly media psychology and social psychology, which are my two main areas of interest. And so basically what I do is I try my best to synthesize things that are going on in pop culture and the news and society with theories and research in the psychological and communication sciences, and I try to make it as funny as possible in an attempt. But that's pretty much what I do.
And it's kind of fun, and people have known me for a little while that I love long content. Like obviously, if I'm
me too.
So yeah, you tend to shoot somewhere around the 45 to almost. Usually don't break about 2 hours somewhere in there.
No, I've never done one. I think the longest has been an hour 45. The one that's going up in a few days is an hour and 7 minutes or an hour and 6 minutes. So it'll be a bit longer.
Yeah, I kind of started binging a bunch of yours when you decided to accept our invite. Because we were talking about it was probably 3 or 4 weeks ago. We got onto the conversation of parasocial relationship and like kind of the need. Do we need celebrity now, especially like with everything going on? We're kind of seeing this weird we're kind of like seeing the cringe factor really go up, and the idea that maybe we're potentially putting too much stock in these kind of people, but at the same time it's is it important to have your heroes and things like that, fictional or non-fictional even?
It can be important, but mostly what parasocial relationships do is that they often give people who feel like they don't have a lot of real world relationships the feeling that they have a relationship with this media figure. And that goes for people who do have personal friendships and don't. But the way that we process parasocial relationships psychologically is indistinguishable from how we process real life friendships. So we feel as if we know these people, and when they do things that we like and that confirm to our expectations, well, we like that. And when they do things that violate our expectations, well, that can cause parasocial breakup, which is very, very psychologically harmful. It has, again, almost identical effects psychologically to the way that having a fight with your friend affects the brain. So we become invested in these people, and because, we're all pretty much monkeys flinging shit at each other through a digital environment, right? And by that I mean our brains are not evolved to deal with this new technology stuff. We didn't evolve within the context of it. So it's very hard for us to delineate the difference between a person that we interact with on Twitter and someone we might actually know. I want to be very clear that the hypothesis that people can't distinguish media from reality and therefore it causes them to become violent, that's never been supported. Very massive meta-analyses have never found a definitive link between exposure to media and a causal relationship to violence. So let me be very clear.
So what are you telling me that The Boy season 2 was wrong about memes turning people into violent sociopaths?
Yeah, there's 500 studies have never been able to lock that down. So they keep trying. If you're someone who does like reading research, there is what I can only describe as an academic slap fight that occurred between Anderson et al. And Ferguson et al. In 2015, and it's just a back and forth between journal publications where they're kind of insulting each other, but they're doing it in a really academic, intellectual way. And it's just these two groups of researchers arguing about whether or not games cause violence.
Oh God! Don't you love how it seems to be like the parties flip their ideas every couple of decades? Who's censoring who?
Mm-hmm.
I always find that interesting because That comes up every like 10, 15 years. It's about video games again.
They're back at it.
Yeah, I know.
Like
Apparently
this year-
Pong is bad for you too.
I'm sure. But the reality is that media exposure well, there's a lot of media exposure effects. There's tons of them. Probably the one that comes closest to the games cause violence theory is something called cultivation theory. What cultivation theory posits, and has some spurious support, not great, but some support, better than the games directly causally induce violent behavior. What cultivation theory posits, though, is that, specifically via the meme world hypothesis, is that long-term exposure to negative news coverage, specifically news coverage, makes people think that the world is a nasty, bad, scary place. It doesn't make them violent. It makes them reactionary in that they become more defensive, but it doesn't make them necessarily more violent. The other major effect that we do find fairly consistently is that exposure to violent quote-unquote media can induce fear effects again in people, in that it can make them more reactive again to stuff. So like one of the classic experiments is that they showed people a violent piece of media, and then they could choose how loud of a noise to play in the ear of another person. They're not directly harming them. So we can't, first of all, you can't do an experiment like that. You can't show someone a violent piece of media and then put them in a room with a knife and, I don't know, a kitten and be like, well, what are you going to do? You can't do that. It's completely unethical. You can't do it. I wouldn't fly past the institutional review board. But they did find that people get more aroused, is the correct term. Not more aggressive, more aroused by any kind, not just violent media, but any kind of exciting media. It creates arousal, and that can make people slightly more aggressive in that they'll play a louder decibel in the ear of someone else who answers a question wrong. But they're not really more violent, are they? They're maybe more aggressive, but even that's a bit of a leap.
Well, because I mean, you'd
That's
imagine because I would imagine because especially with news, when you're dealing with a movie that kind of does that with you, you're understanding that you're watching something fictional for the most part. But when you're dealing with the news and it feels like something that you're gonna have to experience, and maybe it creates like a sense of anxiety and fear. So when you start to see that play out, maybe around in your surroundings, you maybe react a little bit harder to it. You'd assume.
Oh, right. Well, really, people do have the capacity to delineate and differentiate reality from fiction. We can fall into these parasocial relationships where we feel like we know a character. But at some point, when you sit back and cognitively process it, you know that, I don't know, Superman isn't real, right? You know he's not.
What?
Right?
I've seen Henry Cavill. You're wrong. I've seen him with his shirt off. Superman is quite real.
I don't know. I've seen his chin or his upper lip. I'm not sure that's real.
Damn.
Well, yeah, they had to Photoshop it back in to get rid of his mustache. Yeah, I'm not sure about the reality of that one, but at least that part of Henry Cavill. But when we think about this stuff, we know it's not real, and most of the media reactions are really quick effects. When you ask people to sit back and think about them, they don't tend to have that same kind of strong reaction to stuff. Media effects are usually very small in size, which is why they're hard to point down and makes it an interesting area of study within the psychological sciences. But with stuff like the news, well, it's all framed under the auspices of this being a reflection of reality, which, fictional media is not for the most part. So I think that does create a difference in the framing and how people perceive that media.
Because I guess when you go from there, because we kind of start off with the fictional idea of creating a relationship with somebody that doesn't exist. You start to get in, and this is kind of the point of the response video you made for Quentin Reviews, where it starts to bleed into YouTube personalities, online personalities, even celebrities now, because thanks to Twitter and things like that, you have a little bit more chance at being, I don't know, recognized, or at least have an interaction of some kind, no matter how empty it kind of is. Because I've brought it up to these guys before. I've noticed that you used a red versus blue I hate the bands you like clip in one of yours. So early RVB fan right here.
New season just started.
At 0. But it was interesting because I have brought up to these guys, we're seeing stuff happen with like Achievement Hunter right now. kind of feeling like a little bit betrayed by people that we've known for a long time. On top of that, I go, I think I would totally be willing to say, I've brought it up with these guys a few times, that I've probably fallen into that trap before. Because even with like Mahler and Rags and those guys, they do. Well, shoot, your first episode was like 16 hours long when you came on. You fell asleep, what was it, 3 times?
Yes. Yeah. Well, okay. I took a little nap, let's just say.
Yes.
Okay.
You
First of
logged some time.
all, 16 hours,
It's
John,
hardcore.
is
It's
longer than the entire season of RPM Power Rangers. So before you get on me for watching that, just remember.
But it's interesting because I was bringing it up to these guys because I listen to their stuff while I'm at work. Or like I used to listen to the Rooster Teeth podcast at work all the time. And you would hear that for potentially 8 hours a day, give or take, if not more. I go, there's a point now where I've probably heard these people's personal information or their ideologies or just their voice more than I've probably heard not only either my girlfriend that I've lived with, but probably my own parents over the course of my entire life. And that's really strange to think about.
Yeah, that is interesting. And it's a totally different environment that we live in terms of media exposure in current year, +5 or whatever we're at. In that, that never would have been the case before. Even if you were, I'm a big Trekkie, but even if I spent, how many hours are all 5? Well, 4 that count. What was it first? Original series, Next Gen, Voyager, and DS9. Okay, so all the 4 Trek series that count.
Yeah, there it is. Just to make Michael angry, which one's your favorite?
Okay, so I have favorites for different reasons.
Bring 'em.
My favorite, emotionally, nostalgically, is the original series. I love it. I love the rosy tinted view of the future. Yeah. I think it's silly, but also wonderfully creative. And I love what Gene was trying to do. It doesn't always work, but it's very fun to rewatch. DS9 has the best storytelling, I think, of all of them consistently, and world building consistently. Next Gen is probably the best synthesis of the storytelling that's in DS9 and the rosy tinted stuff that we get in the original series. And then my guilty pleasure is Voyager. I love Voyager so much. It's so bad, but I love it. That's my favorite for Voyager. Is my favorite for taking the silliness of the original series and putting it into a modern, I guess, in quotations.
Making it glossy and pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, but having the same absolutely stupid episodes. Some of the dumbest stuff ever happens in Voyager. We don't talk about Threshold, but we could talk about Threshold. That is, of course, is the episode where the Janeway and Tom Paris turn into lizard people and mate with each other. It's really
have a baby and
they have to leave it behind because it's so bad.
Hot. I don't know about you guys.
Arguably the worst episode ever of Star Trek.
Now, you said the word aroused earlier. I think that had just came full circle for me.
Which they have technically, didn't they create an entire new species when they did that? So they automatically fucked up the ecosystem to that planet. So.
Yeah, Voyager didn't care too much about the Prime Directive. So.
Yeah, they didn't give 2 shits.
Well, JJ did. He cared so much.
Oh yeah, supposedly. But my point in bringing up Star Trek is that I've watched every series of Star Trek, and I've watched Enterprise once or twice, but I've watched every series of Star Trek multiple times. But even then, that's as a pretty hardcore fan. You know what I mean? The average person probably has seen episodes of Star Trek a few times.
Yeah.
But the level now with podcasts of how many hours. My favorite podcast is it's a comedy podcast called Your Mom's House, and I've been listening to it for 10 years. Every week for 10 years. And now they have 4 other podcasts that's in their network. That's still the same 2 people pretty much on every single one. And so the number, and if each one is 2 hours long, an hour and a half long, how many hours is that? And I've listened to several episodes multiple times. That's more than I've watched Star Trek, I think. That's not living in a fictional world again. That's where the realm of fantasy and reality blend, right? We're seeing a shoot, what's his name? This is in a way it's face work, which is that we put on a certain face when we're doing live shows, and everybody does. Actors do it in a very specific way when they're playing a role. Irving Goffman, excuse me, is the seminal author on that. Irving Goffman on Facework, and but even when people are being themselves, quote unquote, in podcasts, you're still putting on a face a little bit. But there's this implication that it's the real person, and so then you get more of that parasocial stuff going on, the feeling that I really know who this person is. You can feel like you really know a character, but you feel like you really know who that person is when you listen to them for a long time.
We've actually talked about that on the podcast before, about how our personalities on the show are not what we are in person.
Could even just be like heightened,
hyperbolic
maybe,
and stuff.
Yeah, Goffman would say that, you usually want to put on a positive face, but there can be times when you want to put on a negative face because you want to distance yourself from something, you want to seem edgy or whatever. And all of this is part of how we engage in face work. And so when you're on a show, you're aware that you're on a show, and you're not going to necessarily be I think you can be your authentic self, but I think, it's heightened or exaggerated or maybe even turned down, depending on what kind of face you want to put forward to the audience.
I've always looked at it as, people have their public persona and private, and we will never know the private. Like, they could be the nicest person in the world, and then they go inside and they're like,
Well, the problem is that thanks to the internet, we're starting to see the private, and that's like really hurting the public. And it's because it's interesting because, like I said, Aydin, you and I have already had a couple of quick inside jokes from the communities and whatnot, and from your videos and whatnot, because I was a huge fan of Bernie Burns, big Rooster Teeth guy, followed him since the inception, and like I said, I'd been watching their content for so long. They get really personal on podcasts, you follow them everywhere, and then I ended up getting to like set up and then quote unquote host an event for him to come to a college I was working at, and got to have like an hour back room, just hang out, talk to him. And it's really weird to have this idea that like he doesn't have to go through his rigmarole with me, like with his like keynote process. I was like, oh yeah, I already know that story, I've heard it 50 times, or like, oh yeah, you did this and this. So like it was so strange to essentially have never met this person ever, but yet him and I were having a conversation like we've known each other for like a decade. It was a really weird sensation when it was over.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I wonder, man, could you imagine? Because I loved how you talked about going back to the fictional character, like losing that in an abrupt way, like with the cancellation. I think that's why Firefly is so beloved, is this like yearning for more and more. And then Serenity came out and all that. It's I don't know. It's always really struck me is something that I think you're going to see more and more and more of. And luckily, like, I'm at the age where I grew up without it for a really long time, so I kind of can pull myself back. But could you imagine like being young and having this kind of stuff? Do you think the age range thing is maybe making it a little bit tougher?
I need to see more data on it in terms of, I don't think we can definitively call it one way or another. We do kind of forget how mediated even, I mean, I'm 30, so I don't know your guys' age, but even for me growing up, it was, there was a lot of parasocial relationships going on with media figures all throughout my life. I mean, look at like teenage heartthrobs are. I mean, like look at like the Beatles, probably one of the earliest mass parasocial relationships where people felt like they knew who they were. They followed these guys around and everything. And one of the things that you mentioned where you would watch somebody for a long time and then you felt like you knew each other very quickly, right? Mm-hmm. That's communication. It's the law of reciprocity. And I think that it does actually, according to de-individuation theory, is that it allows people to break down barriers faster when we have this way where we feel like we know somebody. Now, this can go in two different ways. There's two ways that it can go. It can be benign disinhibition or toxic disinhibition. Now, benign disinhibition is also sometimes called the strangers on a train effect, which is, well, when you feel you don't feel like necessarily anything bad's going to happen if you open up to this person because you're anonymous somewhat. You can leave it and never talk to this person again. but particularly when you have an existing parasocial relationship with them, you feel more capable to open yourself up and be like, I tell you everything about my life. And if you've ever played like an MMO or talked to people online and just felt like I can just tell this person everything, and you feel like you know them really quick, right? The flip side is toxic disinhibition, which is also called the cockpit effect. And the flip side of this coin is that why it's called the cockpit effect is that the bombers who dropped bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, said that when they did it, they felt like America, fuck yeah. But then when they landed and were like, oh my God, and realized the horrible, horrible thing they had done, one of them, by the way, never felt that way. He was just like, yep. And it's because you're away from actually seeing the emotional manifestation and repercussions of your actions. So on the internet, you can just be like, fuck you, and get someone canceled. And there's no repercussion for you, and you never have to see what happens to them. Not really.
Yeah.
So that's the internet's good side and bad side in terms of how it affects relationships and interaction.
And at some point you buy someone's bathwater, right? Like that's usually the first line.
That's the parasocial stuff. That's the parasocial stuff. And I don't know, the idol worship stuff, I don't know enough about it to go into detail on it. But yeah, that's a parasocial relationship of, oh, I know Belle Delphine, and I know that she would really like it if I bought her bathwater. In terms of, one thing that is, though, is that I think a lot of people, when doing that, it is communication reciprocity. It's like, oh, well, I'm receiving your content, so I have to give back to you in some way. I'm feeling like that's the reciprocal thing to do, is to give back for receiving content.
Now, is the bathwater thing really like a parasocial, or more of like just a kinky, like weird freak thing?
Could be both.
Like,
do they need to be mutually exclusive?
No, I think yes is probably the answer to that.
The people that drank
the
it
board.
really freaked me out.
the what?
The people that drank it.
Oh, ew. Dude, that was
Who
probably
baked
like
it?
some dude's bathwater instead.
Look, wait, Aydin knows this question. If you drink it and you get herpes, did you deserve it? Oh God.
I know
Let's
somebody
not get
vaped
into
it.
that.
I can't remember who did, but that's
Vaped it?
yeah. I remember
God.
somebody said they vaped it.
That's gross and
Wow.
cringe at the same time.
My brain is going back to that sarcophagus that we found that everyone wanted to drink the mystery water out of.
Ew. Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What the heck? Well, there's a psychology to mystery too, in that it's uncertainty. Something called uncertainty reduction, in that whenever we don't know what something is, our monkey brain inherently goes, well, I better figure out what it is. So in that case, I guess it's better drink it. Let's find out.
Look,
Let's
who's
put it
the
in our
first?
body.
Well, think about it. Who's the first person to eat a certain fruit and then they peel the skin off? They go, oh, this is way better. Like, nailed it.
I've always, that's like one of those shower thoughts where you like sit around thinking like, how did humans come up with the idea to grind up this plant and make it into a paste and bake it, make bread,
Or
weird stuff like
coffee.
that. Oh, I
like-
know. It's so much stuff.
Ugh.
It's a lot of trial and error there. It's a lot of uncertainty reduction.
But I love, so I guess as we were just kind of having all these conversations, I wanted people to really kind of notice like your vernacular and kind of the way that you speak. You talk about data and I need more of this and that. It's because that's really the crux of what you do. You go through and you look for as many, I'm assuming you either know that the research that you're looking at is already viable, or do you read it and then deduce like in the middle of that whether or not like is this like I don't know the word I'm looking for, like authentic, or like or do you kind of always know, like when you're about to make a video on a subject, do you kind of know what reports and research that you're looking for, or do you kind of just hit it from all angles and look for the ones that seem to be the most respected or something like that?
I usually have an idea of where to start because of graduate school, doctoral school, stuff like that. But I found out very early on, people didn't like me citing the seminal studies, and that doesn't have anything to do with fluids. It has to do with what was published first. So, because people are like, why are you citing something from 1963? And it's like, well, because that's the seminal work. But it's okay. It's not a great critique, guys, but I get it. I understand it, is that people want to look at stuff and go like, why'd you cite something from 50 years ago? It's like, well, because it's important to establish context. I don't do that anymore because too many people think it's an own. That's literally the only reason I don't do it anymore.
Gotcha.
But and it kind of wastes time. It's like if I've cited it before, there's no reason to.
Yeah. Okay.
So usually what I do is I have an idea of theories and general stuff, colloquially speaking, that goes on in social sciences. And then I know the keywords, like keywords, key theories, key ideas that I'm looking for. And then I just go to Google Scholar and I just read hundreds of, of studies and see whatever pops up, whatever I find interesting. And to me, both as my work in the college and outside of it, and I think most researchers, good ones maybe, would agree with me on this, is that what is interesting is not research that conforms to the idea that you held going into your search, but stuff that conflicts with it because of hypothesis.
So essentially the idea of I think people do that with movies and things that they care about. It's the idea of confirmation bias. Like if you don't go in looking for the other side, what are you really learning at the end of the day?
Well, if you want to compare that too much to movies, unfortunately, you wind up at the, I violated your expectations.
Oh, true.
Why don't you like this movie? Because it violated your expectations? Actually, there's so much research on expectancy violation and how it's not a good thing.
I listened to that as well. That was good.
But no, it's more that when you have a hypothesis, which before I start making a video, I have a hypothesis. It could be directional or non-directional. Directional means like, I think this thing is positively related to this thing. Or it could be non-directional, which means I think these two things are related in some way.
Okay.
But I usually have some reason based on research I've done in the past and readings I've done to think these two things are probably related or unrelated, and which would be the null. And then if I find something that contradicts that expectation, that to me is really interesting because I have research-based rationales for presupposing it. So that's the stuff that I always get excited about, which is why I always try to, if I can find it, report on evidence that does not confirm whatever my video is about. And I think that's something everybody should do, is try to find, if you can, something that disagrees with your point of view, not just to give the opposite side a voice, but because it's really from a scientific perspective. To make sure you don't just glaze over research that contradicts your hypothesis.
Okay. Yeah, I could definitely. Well, because it's just one of those things. Like I said, I mean, if you're really only listening to the things that you believe, or you're searching that stuff out, it's just kind of like It was kind of always the talk about like letting people speak. It's like it's a good and a bad thing because it's like, yeah, you're saying something they don't like, but they are showing you their beliefs, so you get to. It saves time, kind of. It's like, oh, they said this thing, so we kind of know where their mindset is to start, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you should, in terms of letting people speak, you should absolutely let them dig their own grave.
Right.
I mean, if someone's saying something really dumb, don't interrupt them.
Yeah,
Let
right?
them go.
Because
this is why no one ever interrupts John.
Yeah, see? I was wondering how many degrees of separation we were going to get until it came back to me on that one. So as everybody's hearing, yeah, super educational, very precise. And I would really also like, if nobody's seen their videos, seen your videos, I absolutely recommend them. Obviously.
Oh, thank you.
Because sadly, when I first started going through them, I was doing the same thing. It was just listening because of work. I had to go back because I noticed all the clips that you were bringing up. You really bring up Simpsons a lot. So
yeah.
What's
classic? You gotta use The Simpsons.
And
they reference everything.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Simpsons did it. Simpsons did
it. We've gotten Star Trek ones. And in case nobody knows, I hope this isn't derogatory towards you, Aydin. She is what you may call a bit of a weeb, if you will.
Oh, yeah. Mochoto weeb.
And that's where you got me a bunch, is because you would use some anime clips, and they'd obviously be subtitled. So I had no idea what the joke was. So then when I'd go back and rewatch it was way funnier because your editing process is really good because I think you even say yourself, that you understand that this could be potentially monotonous or boring, almost like a
Oh yeah.
college lecture. So you break it up with jokes, and you're a little edgy too, and I love.
Oh yeah.
And I fucking love that, by the way.
Thank you. I've toned down the edge because I like ads, but
Boo, yeah, but yeah, you're.
hey, everybody likes money, okay? And particularly at this point in time on YouTube, yeah, I'm very worried right now. So about what happens to people talking about politics in any capacity who don't have a very specific point of view. So we'll see what happens there. But
so is YouTube kind of like your primary source, or are you still doing college stuff? Like, are you still like lecturing and things like that?
No, I moved to the UK and I stopped doing it. I had stopped before then. I mean, it was. I was on when I started YouTube, I was on a sabbatical, and for like just health reasons. And then I was like, I hate not working, so let me find something to do with my free time. And I thought, well, what I like doing the most, in terms of my work at school, was getting in and teaching people and being like, oh, and watching them make connections. And I loved that when I was an undergrad too. I had this great professor who was like myself, very awkward in the classroom, but really personable. I don't know how personable I am, but he was very personable outside of class, but he was very, very awkward. And he would use The Simpsons and The Office to like explain everything. Because The Office is another one of those shows where if you talk about social phenomenon, there's some clip from The Office where it happened. It really is. I try not to use The Office too much, if only for copyright reasons, because they're real quick to shut down on that. But there's always like a clip from The Office that or maybe like Parks and Rec. A lot of sitcoms have good social representations of communication phenomenon. And I just remember how much I loved the way that he would do that in his lectures, where he did essentially what I do, which is he'll go on and on about theory and then be like, let's watch a clip that would help illustrate how that might be seen in media, or just a funny example of how that might manifest itself in a social situation. And so I basically just stole his idea.
Don't worry, I got a pastor friend who does that with his sermons too. So it's like,
yeah,
Lord of the Rings comes up a lot in his stuff.
I was talking to my friends about this the other day. I said I also had a great class that was called, I can't remember what it was called, like philosophy and fiction, and the guy was a professor, and his specific, so like my area of study is communication media psychology. His was philosophy Tolkien studies, which I didn't know was a thing. So he was just a Tolkien scholar, which was really cool. But I love that stuff.
Was this the one that you said brought in a scroll?
Yes, that was him. The one who brought in a giant, and he rolled it out on the floor, and it's this huge scroll of the whole history of Middle Earth. So cool. Wow. What a cool dude.
my nerd boner would have exploded. I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan, and I've spent the last almost year and a half trying to get Michael to watch all three, and he just fucking won't
I'm working
do it.
on it. I got one left.
He saw the first one, then took like 6 months to watch Two Towers, and then he still hasn't even finished it.
Oh, you haven't really finished them until you've watched the extended versions, of which I think together are like 12 hours long.
Yeah.
Michael's a bad person. I just want everyone to know that. I'm angry. I'm still angry at him about it.
It'll be your Christmas present.
All right, fair. No, you're watching The Hogfather for my Christmas present, my guy. I'm sending your ass to Discworld right now. There you go. There's a question. Guess so I don't make you play teacher to us all day. Favorite Christmas movie? What's the go-to?
Die Hard.
All right, fair enough. Yeah.
Okay, really Scrooged.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah,
that is good.
You hear they're gonna ruin that with remaking it?
Oh God, why would you touch that movie? It's perfect.
With
Bill
Kevin
Murray
Hart,
is wonderful.
I think they're gonna use Kevin Hart.
Are they going to kill Bill Murray?
That doesn't even make sense to me.
Are they going to kill Bill Murray in this one like they did with Ghostbusters 2016?
I don't know, but The Rock's probably going to be one of the ghosts.
Oh God!
That would be awful. I mean, I personally think that I have very hard Ghost of Christmas Past energy from that film. I identify with her. Oh look, there's Mr. Hedgehog. I wonder where he's going. Perhaps to Holland is my favorite quote from that film. Right before she kicks him in the nuts. But yeah, if I have to pick an actual Christmas movie, it's probably Scrooge. Really good one.
Great choice. I haven't seen that in a billion years. Now I'm gonna have to watch
I
it.
watch it
again.
every year. Every year I watch that
That's a
one.
good one.
Yeah, mine's a two-parter. I need Jingle All the Way for sure,
Mm-hmm.
and then Muppet Christmas Carol happens on Christmas Eve right before I go to bed.
Oh, Muppet Christmas Carol is great. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I embarrassing fact for you. I remember because Muppet Christmas Carol was one of the first tellings of A Christmas Carol that I'd ever watched, at least in movie form. And usually I'd read the story, or my grandma would read me a book or something about it. So then I was like, "Oh, I'm so pumped! This is great! What a great story, and the music's great. I love it." Then Sir Patrick Stewart, sorry, did a version for like TNT or something. And I watched it, and I was watching it, and we're like 30 minutes in. He like got to the door knocker, and I'm like, "This is really boring. Why has nobody sang a song yet?" 100% thought Christmas Carol was a musical.
Well, it has Carol in the title.
That's what I'm saying. That one's followed me for a while. It's pretty embarrassing. But man, there's so many things. So, I guess what's the other? You bring up. I'm gonna slaughter this. I can bring it up. Eudaimonia and kind of that with mood management, essentially. I found that really interesting.
Yeah, there's two basic theories of really quickly. The way that media psychology originally began as a study was pretty basic. What are we looking at here as to why do people watch movies? Why do people listen to radio shows? We're talking old stuff, like 1920s era research. Why do people go to the pictures? Why do people read books? And the basic premise was hedonia, which is hedonic pleasure of it. Well, it makes us feel good. It makes us have good feelings to read these things. That's why we want to see the hero always succeed, and we want to see the love interests always get together. But then really quickly, immediately, some other researchers went, excuse me, let me introduce you to, I don't know, all of the Shakespearean tragedies. So that doesn't make any sense. The idea that the only reason that we engage with media is to feel good. And so the next sort of theory that came in there, I'm going to get to eudaimonia in a second, was something called excitation transfer. And what excitation transfer posits is that, well, we want to see the hero succeed, but we also want to see them struggle. So basically, by excitation transfer, you have building energy that happens over the course of engaging in a narrative. So it's getting more and more tense, more and more tense. But things are headed in a good way. And then when things drop off a cliff, and you think these are this is so awful. It's the scene in the superhero movie where, they've been knocked out and you think it's all over and everybody's crying, and then they arise triumphantly. And the pith of excitation transfer theory is that dip of the depressive stuff actually creates a greater excitation, a greater amount of excitement, a greater amount of joy and enjoyment. But excitation transfer still relies on the concept of a happy ending. So there were some problems with that.
So probably kind of like why they talk about, some people would say that Empire Strike Back and Infinity War having these kind of downer endings. It's somber, but they stick with you. So then when the win comes, it's way more impactful, maybe?
Oh, yeah. Then it's then all of the energy that you had built up from the previous thing is going to be so much stronger than what you had before. But it still doesn't explain depressing endings. Yeah. And there are a couple of theories that have tackled it. But what eudaimonia is its meaningfulness. It's kind of the opposite of hedonic pleasure. Eudaimonia, it means meaning making. So a movie can have a really sad ending, but if it gives you some kind of message or something to think about, then that can be just as enjoyable as a happy ending, because it gives you this philosophical thing to chew on, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of support for eudaimonic pleasure as well, which is, again, completely in contrast to what the original theorists in media psychology, and by that I mean the people starting in the 20s, not the Greek philosophers who were doing this a couple centuries before, and where the words arise from, which are of course both Greek. So yeah, it's the idea of meaning making, and I think that when we look at why do we like sad movies, why do we like depressing endings, it's because we get something else out of it that provides meaning or psychological or philosophical contextualization to our own lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could totally see that, because I was talking to these guys. I'm watching Hill House, right, Haunting a Hill House right now, and kind of seeing this struggle. It's like I'm even at a point where I'm just like, even if it ends like on a downer, I'm like, man, there was so much building to whatever.
Yeah.
It's like it's probably gonna stick with me harder than if it was like, oh, actually it was all a dream and everybody's happy or something like that.
Oh, that's awful.
You know?
Oh, it was all a dream.
Like, but even if like there was some way to give me a happy ending, I guess it's like, and I hate using the term happy ending constantly. Yeah, because I have said that, like, the idea is that, like, because then you kind of wonder, it's like, well, why didn't they get the end, you know, the fucking hell happy ending? Like, why didn't they get there? Or like, would it have been as impactful had they done it? Like, would I just go, oh, okay, yeah, they did the thing, that was fun, cool ending, move on? Or it's like, it maybe not even might sit poorly with you, and for that you're kind of more, it's kind of like when we watched like TLJ and we're mad at it. Like, I'm spending more time learning about that movie because I'm mad at it, versus like if I would have just enjoyed it, I probably wouldn't have talked about it nearly as much. I don't know if that relates to itself, but
that's the marketing of that movie.
That's another psychological effect, though. It's halo and horn effect, though, in terms of what we remember. Cognitively, we remember things that actually piss us off or make us upset more easily and more readily than we remember things that make us happy. So, because of course,
what are we gonna call that nowadays? The YouTube comment section theory? Is that what that is? you can have 500 great comments, but it's the one that tells you to go eat a butt that you're gonna stick.
Yep. Oh, I know that. Yep, that's how it works. But it's more than that, though, too. Again, it's a movie that leaves a bad taste in your mouth. You know, apparently if you paid to see it, like, so you have an actual physical cost there, and then that's the horn effect, where then everything associated with that film is tainted for you because of your negative experience, and it does affect recall, because there is a primacy and recency effect, in that we remember things that we saw first, and we remember the things that we saw most recently. Those are the things that we recall to mind first. And when your first experience with a film, let's say Star Wars, is your primacy, your prime introduction to Star Wars is the original trilogy, or even the sequels, if you really liked them, and then you have this thing that runs very counter to it, well, you have two memories that are conflicting and are both very readily available, and because they're conflicting with each other, they create dissonance, and that's psychologically uncomfortable, and then you want to try to resolve that dissonance, and if that's by saying, you know, fuck The Last Jedi, fuck everybody involved in the excuse me, not, I said the prequels before, did I? Or did I say sequels? Everyone involved with the sequels, fuck them. It creates just a negative psychological state. You don't want to. That's why people are mad, and I think that more movies, these multi-million-dollar huge projects, need a media psychologist to be somewhere in the writing room or production staff to be like, don't do that, you're going to piss everybody off. Like, just someone to give them notes.
Especially when they're dealing with franchises that have been around for forever.
Well, that's the thing. And it's just like, also, it surprises me to see it happening almost like it's you know how MCU is like a superhero formula? Somehow movie studios have created the perfect formula for completely disenfranchising people from stories that they loved. Like, it's insane. You saw it with Terminator. You saw it with Star Trek. You saw it with
oh god,
fucking Game of Thrones did it to themselves. It was insane. Like, to watch the diminishing returns in quality.
Isn't The Walking Dead doing the same thing too, I think?
Yeah, to be fair, that show's always been kind of retarded, though.
I stopped watching after season 4, so I don't know.
First season was good, and it was just kind of on a downhill from there. Hey, the comics, if you'd read the comics, you should have been expecting. Just saying. No offense to, what's his name?
Robert Kirkman?
Kirkman?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Kirkbride's the guy who writes Elder Scrolls games, who's awesome. Kirkman. No offense to him. He's much better on what is it? Invincible. Yeah, one of my favorite comics. I love Invincible. Also has the problem of, you've been writing this for too long now, Kirkman. The Walking Dead had a lot of those problems very early on in the comics as well. I stopped reading it years before the show even started, just because it had this clearly, again, going on for too long problem. And as for why they keep ruining stuff, seemingly intentionally, I almost have to wonder if, because we live in a clickbait world of the way news is handled, if it's almost like they know that they'll get hate watches, and they're hedging their bets on, we'll get people to see this just because we think they'll hate it, and then they'll want to go see it really badly to justify to themselves their own pre-existing hate, because to avoid cognitive dissonance, we always seek to confirm our pre-existing beliefs. So if I see all these advertisements for this shitty Star Wars movie, and I go see it, and I hate it, well, I've confirmed, and I have this now consistent internal belief, so I feel very psychologically safe, but they just made money. Unfortunately, pirating exists, so I don't know how effective that is when you're essentially encouraging pirating.
The
But that
Walking Dead
might
has
be
been like 3
Well, that just
repeated
seems like-
storylines.
That just feels so. I mean, because I could see it, but that seems so like front, like. But it feels so like lacking forward thinking, because it's like, well, then
Kirkman.
you've diminished you got the box
Yeah.
office numbers, good for you. But man, your merch sales, there's going to be no return. Like, you're not going to come back. You're not going to watch it multiple times in the theater to hate it. And you're not going to buy it when
Invincible.
it comes out on the 4K. I mean, unless you need the footage for
yeah.
video or something. But
yeah, exactly.
you know, because I know
Or-
YouTubers fall into that trap. They have to get the footage,
Yeah.
so their video
Or the
works, but-
collectors who just want to have everyone from the franchise and shit like that.
So then I'm curious, Aydin. This was something I'd brought up. This was a little shower thought of mine, where I almost think, and I hate to sound like a fucking boomer, which I'm going to. So here we go. So like we grow up in like, because you see it with your videos, the length, always with the length. We're used to these 10-minute, 5-10-minute reviews. We're used to TikToks and Vines and Snapchatting and stuff like that. So people really are taking in their media piece by piece by piece. That's why I think a lot of these movies can get away with it from time to time, is that as long as the scene told me that this is the way it is, they can change my mind with every scene. If it's something like that. Because I've always thought, because I mean, again, we'll do with the Star Wars movie. It's like almost from scene to scene, Kylo Ren is a different character. Almost his motivations change in almost every scene, definitely in every movie. And then you have somebody like Rey, who doesn't really even seem to have a motivation other than to be there and be hero. And it's just because the scene told us either through blatant dialogue
Yeah,
or
I
just
got a
because it
little
happened
sad
in front
'cause
of
I'm
us.
like,
It's
oh,
well,
I
it
hope this
happened,
isn't
therefore that's the way it is. Deal with it. Korra, if you will.
Yeah. Well, I think what that goes down to is something called cognitive miserliness. And I think that when we are existing in a world of competing media, always trying to grab your attention, people have less ability to donate any amount of their time to any given piece of media. On top of that, what cognitive miserliness is an inherent function and reality of our psychology, which is that we only have so much, like the brain takes up so much energy, more energy than any other organ for the most part. Maybe your digestive tract takes up a little more, I don't know, but a lot. It's the majority of our energy goes to keeping our really complicated brains functioning. And as a result of that, any more time you have to spend thinking about stuff is not necessarily the best use of energy, because it does mean you're going to have to work. Your brain has to work, and it's going to consume energy. And in order to reduce the amount of energy that's consumed, because it could be better spent thinking about positive stuff. I think people seek to avoid it sometimes. It's not just with media, it's with everything. People don't want to think too much about stuff because it's just a lot of cognitive energy expenditure. And so if it's TikToks are a perfect example. Only have to put 8 seconds into this. Or not TikToks, what was it before that? Vines.
Vine.
Yeah. Where, I only have to spend 8 seconds devoting my attention to this, and it can give me a feeling, and it can give me that shot of eudaimonia or hedonia, probably usually hedonia, not eudaimonia, but it can give me that shot of excitation, it can give me that shot of enjoyment for 8 seconds. I don't have to think about it. I don't expend any cognitive energy, and it's over. And I think it's the same thing with things like Star Wars, where they're not expecting you to pay attention.
Yeah.
Because they know most people aren't going into it with that intent. They don't expect maulers. The average viewer is not a mauler.
It's just
Right.
nerd stuff.
Yeah.
I can't remember the term you used. You did bring it up on one of those EFAPs where it was literally almost, you almost said it word for word, how people don't want to expend that kind of time, so they start to try and push people into a certain category, like they look for a buzzword or a red flag to immediately, because you see it in politics, obviously, like they say something and they push them over to a category. Therefore, okay, well, they said this one thing, therefore I don't need to listen to the rest because it's already obvious.
Yeah, that's social identity theory.
Okay.
But there's the subsection of that is social categorization theory, which
Okay.
is, it's basically that. Okay, so social identity is, we have our psychology is like ogres. It has layers. And by that I mean we have our individual identity that lies in the center of our self concept. And these are the things that we hold very deep into who we are, like our deep held values and the things that our morals, stuff like that. And then around us we have
Line.
things that we might believe in a little bit. And then outside of that, we have our social identities, and they exist kind of on the periphery, but they're still an important part of what makes up the core. And our social identities are all of the groups that we perceive ourselves to be a part of. So, I could say like, oh, I'm a libertarian, so I identify with libertarian. Therefore, what other libertarians do has something to do with my core sense of the self. What social categorization, self-categorization theory is that I categorize myself as libertarian, as a Star Trek fan, as whatever. I have all these categories that form that sense of self. And as a product of that, I also have to categorize everybody else into a box. This is done for a really obvious reason. Again, it's cognitive miserliness. It takes so much energy to have to figure out who somebody actually is. It's much easier to just say, this label, that label, that label. Yeah. And that's just all done, again, for the sake of simplicity and avoiding having to think too much about stuff. But yeah, that's categorization theory. So that's basically what that is.
So do you think that's necessarily bad, or do you think it actually might just be a good thing just for the sake of time frame?
It's a cognitive heuristic, and heuristics are a evolutionary part of our development. And the reason why we developed heuristics, which are flash judgments or snap judgments, is because if you're walking through the field and you see a stick in the grass, you have to immediately make a snap judgment of, is that a stick or is that a snake? And it's out of this that we come to say, you're a bad person because I have some inkling that you look kind of like a snake. Do you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So we use peripheral cues, instantaneous cues that we can see about somebody's person, things that they've said. And again, it goes back to primary and recency processing. So if the first thing I hear about someone is, oh, Mahler is a big, long, nasty Nazi man, it's going to be hard for me to challenge my initial categorization.
Yeah.
Because to challenge my initial categorization creates cognitive dissonance. So we end up in this conundrum where people make a primal categorization of somebody. They put them into this box. And then if I challenge that categorization, that creates cognitive dissonance, which is psychologically uncomfortable, and they're very unlikely to change that opinion. And there's the whole psychological process there.
Just a nasty, stupid circle of dumb. Right?
Right. But we all do it. We all do
Yeah,
it. It's very hard to change. First impressions are almost impossible to change.
Yeah.
And why do you think they label people like that, though? Because they do want that first impression to stick.
Yeah, especially in this day and age. Like, man, it's shit. Essentially, I feel like we're at a lecture because this is pretty much what school is like. So not even just getting your basic, like,
Sorry.
no, in a good way. Like, are you kidding me? There's a reason why you're here. I'm enthralled. But it's funny because honestly, I mean, like, this is essentially what school is now. Zoom calls for everybody. So you're already,
Oh, I guess so.
You're already kind of having that issue of like, even just your basic day-to-day dealing with social issues, just like your own personal space or dealing with, loud noises and stuff. I'm noticing, cause I still work in like I do stocking stuff. So I'm always in like big grocery stores with people around, but you see like online shopping a lot more and things like that. So it's like, even just the basic day-to-day stuff doesn't feel as like in your face as it used to be. Like, I'm not even dealing with like I'm not even mad that like in high school you get pissed off at the person who has really bad BO or the person who's too loud or the person who's, wearing big bright shirt. And I just don't have those those interactions anymore, and I wonder if that's like really hurtful to
I'm enjoying
humans
myself.
because we're pretty like we want to be societal based. I don't know.
Sure.
Hence why bars and restaurants still stay open from time to time.
Sometimes it goes back into de-individuation, though, which is the fancy word of saying anonymity. The process of being de-individuated, made not an individual. There are some things that pop out of this. Like I said, it's the toxic disinhibition and the benign disinhibition. So being an asshole or being really nice to people that you meet in the same community. There's also something called the social identity model of de-individuation effects, or side theory. And what side theory posits is that in this lack of individuation, people come together really strongly into social groups. They form social norms at an accelerated rate. So memes that form between a group of people are accelerated in their production in an online space. So I think that basically we come up with ways to deal with isolation and being anonymous. And I think that obviously a lack of social interaction is deleterious to psychological health, but we find ways to try and mitigate it. And I think that that's, obviously in the wake of the stuff that's happening, online use has exploded and online usage has exploded. But it doesn't make like group norms and stuff go away. It in fact only exacerbates them and means that
for it more maybe.
Yeah. And the social identity model of de-individuation effects again is that like people will form these incredibly tight-knit groups and they'll develop their own way of speaking. I remember a couple of years ago, a couple of friends of mine who were all sort of involved in the YouTube stuff got to a point where we were not speaking in anything approaching English. It was just like inside jokes. And it was the best example of side that I'd ever seen. But I think that, so for all of the lack of the, interpersonal communication we would normally have in a physical space, we have these coping mechanisms that are built into our psychology that allow us to find ways to get around it. They're not a replacement, but allow us to kind of move around it in a way without going absolutely insane. So far, we'll see how long it lasts. I'm not sure how long it can last.
Well, I just think it's funny that you brought that up with your friend. Like you almost have like, inside language because mannerisms and jokes and all that stuff. I have noticed, I don't know if it's just me, but we've done it, I'm sure. But I've noticed society, like, because movies are doing it too. Like, instead of like writing English, like it was something I noticed with Ghostbusters, the first Ghostbusters movie. Is like they try to use like almost like it feels like a textbook word. Like their dialogue is it feels dictionary, like ambiguous definition type words. And nowadays, because like that way that conversation can work like at any time frame because it's just the fundamental word usage that they're trying to use for the situation versus people using idioms and memes for their dialogue these days. And I've noticed a lot more idioms being part of the thing, so it kind of ages your movie really quickly. Like I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I just,
the meme stuff in the films, that dates it instantaneously.
Yeah.
I don't know, unless we end up living in a Darmok society, which we might be moving towards. That's the episode of Star Trek, Next Generation, where the alien species speaks entirely in metaphors.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I do see modern media and feel like that it's Darmokian, in that it's just these references to other movies and other things and social stuff that will make no sense in 10 years.
Yeah, I totally agree.
It's kind of, I actually was messaging the boys the other day because we started talking in just random shit on the podcast. We make shit up. So I've been telling them I'm just going to use that as my own, language. Because like I think it was last week, he said something about it was so last Florida.
yeah.
And I just was like, you know what?
fall.
I'm just gonna use that from now on. So, yeah, like I see it all the time though, where people are talking in memes and shit like that, and it's getting crazy.
What, Michael? You're on bath salts again, bro? That's so last Florida. Like, what are you doing? I guess I've been kind of just putting the mic in your face and asking you all questions. So I figure
Until I run out of answers, I'm fine. But I don't want to like talk over everybody else.
Oh no, you're good.
That's why you're here. Fuck these two jabronis.
Normally it's just
now I'm
John.
gonna mute John.
Damn it. But I figured you got. I don't know how much Michael gives a shit, but you got 2 Doctor Who fans in here, and I am very curious. How have you enjoyed the last few years of Doctor Who?
You think I'm gonna watch Jodie Whittaker? No thanks. I'm not gonna watch it. No, it's out of protest.
I'm
not doing it.
I never started.
I have no interest. I've read some of the summaries and I've watched some people's reviews, and that's about all I feel. I don't want to waste my time. I'd rather listen to somebody whose opinion I respect to some degree talk about it than waste my time watching those episodes. They clearly have no respect for the fans, so I won't respect them.
But their special effects are so much better now, though.
Oh, wow. Oh, great.
That's what we knew about Doctor Who, right? Was special effects.
That's why I was tuning into Doctor Who, is for the special effects. Clear, complete lack of understanding of why your audience watches.
You know you loved that Photoshop job in Rose.
Oh, yeah. I don't mind. I mean, like, I started watching Doctor Who with New Who.
Yep.
Completely honest. Mm-hmm. I watched a little bit of specials here and there on TV, but I always caught them like midway through, and I was like, what the heck is this as a kid? And it wasn't until far later that I went back and started to watch the old stuff, which I, for the most part, love of what I've seen. But, I can mostly only speak with authority.
Do you remember? Do you remember your first episode? Do you remember your first episode you saw?
I was just told about it, and I went to Netflix, and it was up, and I started with Christopher Eccleston, and he's maybe my favorite Doctor. Wow, I really love Eccleston. I love Eccleston.
Eccleston's awesome.
I think he is kind of underappreciated because he was only in there for one series.
Yeah.
But I really like that, particularly when you put it into context of the War Doctor and where he fell into the timeline. It makes sense when he rages out. It is so scary. It's very it's scary when Matt Smith and David Tennant do it as well. But when Eccleston does it, it's terrifying, and it's much more frequent when he gets mad. And I really like that kind of scary aspect, because every Doctor has that capacity to be scary. And I just like Eccleston's of the New Who Doctors.
Well, and he was a little bit older too. Like, that was kind of nice to. Yeah. At least when they rebooted it, they didn't have the pretty boys.
Yeah. I mean, like, I originally was not super happy about the Matt Smith pick because I was like, oh, another pretty boy, but then he was fantastic.
That was my wife.
I really liked him.
He became my wife's favorite.
See, Girl in the Fireplace was my first episode.
I'll
never forget Sophia Myles, because then I ended up watching Moonlight. Vampire detective show, which I actually ended up liking too. It was like it wanted to be Angel so bad. The other way around, I guess. But I watched that one, and I'm a Tennant simp. I like David Tennant.
I like Tennant a lot.
But I always had to say that, like, Eccleston I liked all around the board. I think Tennant got away with a lot of stuff for me because I just liked him a lot, and he had some cool storylines. I liked I didn't like Matt Smith as much, but I liked Karen Gillan and Rory and I can't remember her name. Well, it's Rory and I can't remember her name, for God's sake.
River Song?
Amy Pond.
Oh, River.
Sorry.
Oh,
Amy.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where it's like I found myself in the Matt Smith era enjoying the companions more than the Doctor, and then in Tennant and Eccleston I liked everything, and Tennant I kind of just liked Tennant more. He had some really cool stories, like Water on Mars is like peak Doctor Who for me.
I guess the toss-up is what's the opinion on Capaldi? Because my opinion on Capaldi is great Doctor, terrible writing all around him. Like, some of the first episodes were okay, but as it became obvious that the writers hold contempt for this character. Mm-hmm. And that's what I must imagine the Jodie Whittaker stuff is like.
Oh, it feels like they're making him a full-out villain now. Like, why even bother with the Master? They're just making the Doctor seem like this horrible fucking person.
Well, I guess is the opposite. Is it the opposite the case with Whittaker, that now that the Doctor's a woman, then she has to be perfect? That's what I don't want to have any interest in watching it, so I could be talking out my ass. I have no clue.
It was the way that they introduced how the Doctor became the Doctor and
oh God,
and all that.
Yeah,
that fucking hurt my soul. I couldn't do it, man. It hurt my soul. To be fair, I liked Capaldi okay. I didn't like any of his companions. His stories were pretty weak. The only thing that ever stuck out to me was his war speech with the two people
Zygons?
about to push the
Oh,
button. That was like
my-
I
That
was
was
like
really good.
I was like,
my-
if you can give me that all the time, I'm like, I'm in. But I just
That might be my favorite quote out of the entire franchise so far.
It's
mom.
really, yeah.
It's
That
good
scene is
stuff.
extremely strong. And I think overall, again, I think it was Capaldi was a really good actor who was mostly handed very underwhelming, if not outright crappy stories to deal with. And then he had to like work overtime to try and figure out how to fix it.
I think for me, his series started off weak but got stronger as he went.
Mhm.
But I think it was mostly because they really started appealing to people who saw the classic episodes. So, the Empress of Mars,
Yeah.
the reintroduction of Alpha Centauri, Paladin is my favorite stories.
I think that that's important, though, for all of these franchises. You should not alienate your core fan base. Do things that can help bring in a new fan base while not shitting all over the people who built your brand. It's really not complicated.
It's so crazy. It feels like rule number one. Like
It should be.
Adhere to the group that made your reboot possible in the first place. It's like,
And I don't know why
this.
every series feels compelled to do it. I guess
Yeah.
it's because they want to shed the old and in with the new. But the reality is that every attempt to do this has been a complete nightmare. From Ghostbusters to Star Trek to Star Wars, Doctor Who, it doesn't matter. All these sci-fi franchises, how have you not figured it out yet? Stop doing it. Stop.
It's
Stop.
fucking wild. It's so wild. And it's just like at a point, it's like, what if you're gonna remake it, just remake it. Like just remake it and just try and redo it. Like I guess yeah, because I guess with Doctor Who, I dropped out at 50. Like the 50th anniversary. That was pretty much the last episode I watched. Like I gave Capaldi a couple of runs, but when he did the Sonic sunglasses and the guitar on the tank,
It was a bit silly.
I was like, what the fuck am I watching? I was like, the scene was kind of funny because he was giving it his all, but I was just like, I don't know what's happening, guys. My mind is melting. I need to. The only reason why I like the 50th is because I like John Hurt. That was pretty much it.
The saddest part about Capaldi for me was I loved his first costume, and then he slowly lost it and went to a hoodie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was unfortunate too. Well,
This is why you guys should watch good sci-fi stuff and not crap.
How dare you?
Oh.
Doctor Who is fantastic, and you're a bad person. Well, it sucks now, but
well, what is good sci-fi at this point?
yeah, I was gonna say, aren't you loving Picard? How about STD? We fucking on that one right now?
What about Lower Decks, dude? Oh my god, that's so cool.
I just heard
It's
that
so
they're doing an
funny.
X-Files version of that.
No,
What?
don't.
Oh, please no.
What?
can't be
They're gonna
true.
do an X-Files cartoon?
In the same vein as Lower Decks, yeah.
Oh, fuck off.
I
No.
actually didn't think season 10 was terrible. I actually liked most of the last season, I guess, of the X-Files.
Of the X-Files, the one that came out like years later.
Yeah, the one that came out like 4 years ago now.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Where
that everyone
Joel
was like,
McHale-
what the hell are you
Joel
doing?
It was
McHale given a
cool,
weird
but they
alien
should have like I would have liked more of a wrap up, like because they didn't
I
do
know.
another season after that, which kind of sucks.
No.
So you just see Mulder just freaking in a car, like basically handicapped or whatever the heck they did to him. Now I don't know.
Well,
I
it had
was
one of
confused.
the. It had an episode that I think was on par with the classic X-Files episode, and I can't remember the title of it now, but it's the one where they go and eat sushi and there's no dialogue in the whole episode. That one was really interesting. It gave me the feeling of like a good premise, and it was done well, like a good classic 90s sci-fi TV show episode of taking a premise, no talking, and just showing everything visually. I really liked that. Was it like a top 10 X-Files episode? No, but it was maybe a top 20.
Yeah.
And there was good stuff. I actually really liked the Trump scene in it, where they had like an alien come down and he's building a wall around the galaxy, and it's very like it's ridiculous. But I thought that was quite funny. Actually, it was like one of the only Trump jokes I've really enjoyed in media because it was actually like funny. But that was.
I mean, you got to know, like the best Trump story ever told was Shrek. We all know this, right? That was Trump propaganda. He wanted to build a wall around the swamp.
Oh, okay.
Come on.
It was just green instead of orange.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it that way.
See? They knew that
And
was
he's gotta deal with
foresight.
he's got to deal with this annoying donkey. Oh my God, it's all coming together now.
Nostradamus right here. They saw that shit. They saw that years in the making. It's beautiful. I love it.
Oh wow.
See? Mind's blown, everyone. You're welcome. You are all welcome. So I guess, I mean,
Now I can't
Man.
watch that fucking movie.
see, I ruined it.
Thanks.
So we're actually going to attempt to figure out, because we have all the holidays. We just finished up Halloween, I guess, if we can say that, and given
It's still
pandemic.
going on in my house, so chill.
Right? Fair enough.
It
So-
snowed the day after here.
We watched, so we gave movies to each other to watch, and we're going to kind of do it for every holiday at this point.
Except
No,
Thanksgiving.
no, not every holiday.
What? How dare you? I'm waiting for my Nigerian pick for Kwanzaa. What? Go to the what? Isn't that something you did, Aiden? You went to a bargain bin and just bought a bunch of Nigerian films for like $1 or something. You said?
Yeah, where did I do that at? Oh yeah, it was at a thrift store, and there were like a ton of these like weird. I don't know if they were Nigerian. They were some. I don't remember where they were from, but they were from some country in Africa. And forgive my ignorance that I really don't know the difference, but I'm not going
Same.
to claim that I do. I some of them I do, but these ones I don't remember where they were from. And they were. It was like, you know, everybody in Uganda knows kung fu tier stuff, but way less interesting because they were all dramas. They were all dramas that were shot in like one room with like a horrible VHS camera, and they were all on DVD. And I got them all for like $1. And we tried watching all of them, but
Too much.
Wow.
Couldn't do it.
no, just boring. Nothing fun happened in them.
Bummer.
I mean, women
So-
get slapped a lot. Like, there's a lot of women slapping
Jesus.
in it.
Well, I don't know
It's
about
almost
you,
like-
but that sounds like a great time.
It's almost like they're made in third world countries. I don't know. There's a
not-
lot of women clapping, and that was about all I remember about them. But
So
yeah,
not
I got
as
them
good
all
as
somewhere.
Bollywood films.
Oh no, Bollywood films, for the most part, are fantastic. Apparently, the
Mhm.
big scale productions are really fun. But no, these were more like,
Shot
Stuff I
on
made.
VHS tapes and shit.
yeah, stuff someone made in their garage. You know,
Yeah.
if,
The
oh,
last
they're from Lagos. Lagos, that's where they were from.
Lagos.
Sorry, Lagos, which is
Oh.
where's Lagos? But that's a city. Which
I don't know. That would require me to know what a globe or a map was.
I don't know. Oh, it is Nigeria. It is Nigeria. Okay, so yeah, they were from Lagos, which is Nigeria. You were
see,
right.
we're fine.
There you go.
Boom! I'm gonna take it. Can I take my ignorance card back, please? Thank you.
Yeah,
no,
you got it right.
No,
Oh shit.
no.
So what? Okay, so Halloween we picked Friday the 13th, which I enjoyed. Darkness Falls.
No, you didn't pick Friday the 13th.
No, I'm saying like the 3 we picked.
Oh, the 3 we picked. We didn't
So-
do Darkness Falls this year.
I did.
I made Tivis do Darkness Falls because I made
Oh, okay.
Michael do it last year.
Piece of shit film.
How dare you be kind of correct, and I'm sad about it.
I
like,
enjoyed
Only
myself.
cool thing about Darkness Falls is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cameo, and that's it.
How dare
The
you?
And that's for
Bathtub
like
Boys?
10 seconds in the bathroom.
That sounds inappropriate. And then what was the third one? I can't remember.
We did
The
this
Thing.
year. We did
Oh, The
Friday the
Thing.
13th,
That
The
was-
Thing,
And
and
Return-
yeah.
Return of the Living, or the Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, which that was fun. So, Aiden, if you were gonna Halloween us, what are you picking?
Oh, Noroi the Curse. It's a Japanese film by Shirai Shikoji. It's probably my favorite horror film. It's
Oh.
Noroi, Noroi, The Curse. I love it.
Sounds
It's got
familiar.
some Lovecraft stuff in it.
Oh.
It's found footage, and it's an extremely slow mover. I think it's like 2.5 hours, and almost nothing happens in it. But that's the kind of horror movie that I like. If you watch Red Letter Media, Jay and I have like identical taste in horror films.
Really?
We like the real boring slow movers.
That's funny.
So basically, what I just heard is this is gonna traumatize me.
I don't know if it'll traumatize you. The music alone creeps me out. If you want something like everything that Shirai Shikoji has done as a director, I really recommend. He's done 2 movies, one called Occult and one called Karuto, which is the Japanese pronunciation of cult, and they are two different movies, one occult, one cult. Noroi the Curse. I'd really suggest those. And there's also Kaiki Shinin Shouju, but that one's a short, and it just means dead girl walking. If you have 20 minutes and want to watch a girl walking around while her skin falls off and she rots, that's an interesting short. He's a very good director, though. I really like his stuff.
I have seen this film.
I mean, if she gets slapped
a long
then
time
I'll,
ago,
then I'll jump in.
It's if you like sort of existential dread, his movies are good for that. Karuto, cult spelled with a K, is about a girl band pop group that gets haunted by Lovecraftian
I've seen that!
demons. Yeah. Okay, that's a good one. And there's a young hot.
Fucking spoiler! Isn't there like a scene where a girl drinks like bleach or something?
No, that might be. It sounds like White, which is a Korean horror film.
That was it. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Fuck, I was like,
no, White is a favorite of mine. I often recommend that to people who are getting into Asian horror because it's like that one is short, it's fast paced, and it's solid. Is it great? Nah, but it's good. It's a solid pick.
I quite enjoyed myself. I like the fact that you brought up Lovecraftian elements.
Every Shiraishi Koji film has Lovecraftian stuff in it.
Well, I mean, it can't be as good as Lovecraft Country, right?
Oh, God.
He's going to his library.
Look at him go. Look at him go. He needs to get his curator out.
Oh, shit. I wasn't even recording on my end. I was looking for his, Gozu, which I have. I love that film. It's I
have a whole list of Asian. I used to run I used to run a panel at anime conventions on like just an intro into Asian horror, and that's really my lane. I like Asian horror a lot.
It's got some of the best shit, dude. Like it's great.
Yeah.
Like people think that like the American slashers are hardcore. I'm like, nah, you haven't seen anything.
Slashers, to be fair, it bore me. I don't find if the villain is something that can be beaten by any kind of conventional means, I don't find that very scary. If you I mean, like, that's not every slasher movie. I mean, like, you can't just dispatch Jason or Freddy so easily.
Yeah.
But most of the kind of like, oh, there's a guy with a knife stuff I find very boring because
like Scream, like they're human. They're
right.
That's it.
Fair, that was meant to be a
horror.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, Scream. But so Shiraishi Koji stuff. There is one with a girl band, and there is a very hot young boy band looking priest in it. It's a fun film, and then Cult is another mockumentary. They're all mockumentaries or documentary style, and I recommend all three of them. Occult, Noroi, and Karuto. If you like one of them, you'll probably like all three.
Hells yeah. Now, we already did Christmas. Now here's the hard one for everyone. What Thanksgiving movies are we looking into?
Are you even?
Thanksgiving.
Right?
I wasn't going to say it.
The one that Michael
Adam's
is making
Family
me watch,
Values.
That's the one that I have to watch next week because we're talking about that one next week.
Thanksgiving 2 and 3. Actually, Thanksgiving 3 is the better visually to watch if you're going to watch a Thanksgiving movie.
Question. Do you think that Poultrygeist is in the same universe as Thanksgiving?
No, because it's not a trauma film.
Fuck. All right, never mind. You shut me down. I don't know. I got nowhere else to go after that. I just wanted it.
At least I don't think it's a Thanksgiving or a trauma film. I don't think so.
My go-to is always Nightmare Before Christmas because I always figure, Halloween, Christmas in the middle. Perfect.
Fair enough. I appreciate it. I guess I'm kind of just enjoying the conversation. But anyway, I guess I'll bring it back to your channel for the sake of it. 2 questions. Nerd question first.
Wait, hold on. I take it back. It is a trauma film. So it could be.
Get fucked. No.
What's that?
Get clucked, sir. How do you like dim apples? Foul play.
I'll throw in real quick that I think my favorite. I had to think about it, and I had to look it up. I was like, "Is there any Thanksgiving movies I like?" Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Oh
That's-
yes.
Well
that would be my pick. Which I didn't. I forgot was a Thanksgiving movie, but there you go.
I wouldn't even have thought about it.
My father-in-law always watches Alice's Restaurant.
The hell is that? I don't even know what that
I
is.
don't know that one.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
All right,
but
fair enough.
It's a Thanksgiving film.
Glowing endorsement. Nailed it. I got a question about your avatar for your channel. Are you actually a martini drinker, or is it just to make you look fancy?
I do occasionally like a martini, and I like it. I like a dry and dirty martinis, but I have to be in a mood for them. It's just easier to depict a drink with a martini glass and an olive than probably any other shape, because otherwise it doesn't look as distinctly like a drink in terms of when you're drawing something. So that was about the only reason why I did that.
I like
I
it.
do like it.
Well, because, there's a reason why James Bond rocks martinis. You got to look cool or
Yeah.
sophisticated. It's the goal here. I guess, the final question mostly is, what are you working on now? Like, how often do you think you post, or do you just are you always looking to get a video out at a certain time, or do you just kind of go with the flow? It's like, okay, here's something that I'm passionate about now, so now I'm going to do the video, or are you always trying to line something up in the queue?
I'm always working on something. If I don't work for more than a day, I start to get anxious.
Get to it.
Yeah, I like working actually, but so I have a video that will probably be out maybe tomorrow, but I wouldn't cross my fingers on it. But it will be the last in the series that I'm doing on critical race theory.
Ooh.
And so very academic-y subject, something probably parents are going to be more interested than anybody else. I have read that Biden intends to immediately overturn Trump's decision to ban critical race theory. And if you don't know what it was not banned from schools. It was banned from government institutions and agencies. And it is horrifying in terms of what the proponents believe. So in the previous two videos that were both nearly an hour long, I covered a bunch of stuff related to CRT, but I didn't actually read CRT theory itself. And then I had some people, multiple people, say, well, you didn't read the actual studies. So I went and read them, and they were worse than I could have imagined. They were absolutely some of the most racist stuff I've ever read.
That's not good.
No, it's really not, and that's what's going into government programs and what they want to go into schools. So if you want to see what CRT scholars actually believe, check it out.
How dare you? You can't be racist to white people. That's a myth.
Oh no, I don't think it's racist to white people. I think it's racist towards black people. I think it's very racist towards black people. I find it very offensive, some of the stuff they believe, I believe it's a positivist theory in that in science, today any science that you deal with is a post-positivist science, which means that it includes this very important thing called falsification. So pre-positive theories or pre-post-positivist theories, or otherwise just positivist theories, the traditional Karl Popper-ian example is a positivist goes out into a lake and examines all the swans that he sees in the lake and says, well, they're all white, therefore white feathers is a key component of swanness. Then one day he finds a black swan and says, well, that can't be a swan, because I've already decided that all swans are white, so that's just something else. A post-positivist goes and say, okay, there's a falsification to my initial hypothesis that white feathers is a key component of swanness. So critical race theory is a positivist theory because it cannot ever be falsified. Anything that falls outside of its scope of its tenets is just, it doesn't exist. It's something else. If it's not included under the things that we believe, then it either doesn't exist or it's a totally different thing that we don't need to deal with. And that's a major problem for modern science. Everybody dropped positivism in 1900 for a reason because it doesn't work. It's not proper science, in my opinion. But
well, the Earth is flat. How dare you?
Well,
it is very flat.
If we don't have falsification, well, can't tell me I'm wrong.
Right? It's my opinion. Shut up. Shut
There are
up.
people
It's my
like that.
opinion.
Yeah, the government is hiding the information from us. Where really, if I could get up high enough on top of my house, then I could prove that there's no curvature. And there's people like that, man.
They put special windows in airplanes, so it doesn't know.
Right, to confuse you. Hey, that's the CRT level of.
Do people actually think that there's different windows on the airplanes?
Fuck
Like
yes.
a wide lens
Yes.
on the airplane
Oh, yeah.
windows?
Michael, you forget there's like 7 billion people on this planet.
Look, I'm the person that puts content on the internet. I don't pay attention to the internet. So
People who don't believe Australia's real.
Really? No, I know it's real. It's filled with kangaroos and prisoners.
No. They drug you and drop you in New Zealand.
if that's
Oh my
not
God.
real, then
You
where
don't
did
believe
Thor
crazy
come
stuff.
from?
It's one of those things where you go on the internet and you read that stuff and you want to do it because you need to know that they exist just so it
It
doesn't
makes your
surprise you.
head hurt.
But it really hurts your soul at a point where you're just like
There's a comedian that I've recently really enjoyed called Chris Porter. He's got a skit called "The Sun is Bullshit." I highly recommend everyone go watch that,
yes.
just for a laugh.
I mean, okay. I'm like speechless. I'm actually getting like annoyed thinking of all the dumb things I've heard and read in the last like month. So how do you deal with stuff like that? Because I'm sure you get that all the time. Because you really usually just in your videos you cite kind of like what you're doing with us. You'll cite the thing that you read. You'll give us the definition of what you're explaining, and then you use examples in like media theory and actual things that happen in the real world. How often do you get pushback because people are just not willing to? Because I know you put the descriptions or the links to the stuff that you read. Like
Yep, everything's cited. Always everything's cited.
How frustrating, and this is pretty much an obvious question, but I gotta ask it anyway. How much does it drive you insane to see in the comments people being flat out wrong because you can tell that they didn't even bother to read the things that you cited?
I very rarely get it in the comments of videos anymore. I
Really?
mostly get it on Twitter, and
okay.
in like people also who. I always have people being like, I'm going to make a response video. I'm going to tear this person apart. And I have had response videos, but I have never once, not once, had an actual response to a video I've made. It's either taking like a single line out of a video and then like just being like, and going on for an hour. I've had that happen. One line out of a video taken out of context and making a whole hour-long video about that. Or I've
Did you
had
do 11 hours talking about Jenny Nicholson? Oh my god.
Oh, I know. Or I've had people just talking shit about me as a person and how I'm an evil, terrible, bad person from World War II, but they can't like deal with my videos. You know, I get that it's hard apparently to read scientific papers.
Yeah.
I guess. But like
They're not
that's
exactly
the
the most interesting.
well, if you want to debunk what I'm saying, you could try. The unfortunate thing is that I put all the studies on the screen so you can read what they say in their own words while I'm usually paraphrasing it. Because if I just read it, first of all, that's plagiarism, and secondly, that's really boring.
Yeah.
So, but I put like the data. Usually, I just put the data up, and if there's no specific data, but it's like a conclusion. So, like this video where I'm citing CRT scholars, they don't have data. They don't have science. They don't have numbers. It's not science in my opinion. They don't have quantitative data. They have feelings data, and so I can't put there is no graph. There's no nothing like that.
Yeah.
But I have to put up. These are their words, and here's me paraphrasing them. And I imagine if people get mad about this video, which I'm sure they will, because the CRT scholars were mad about the other two. So CRT scholars, CRT proponents. So particularly in this one, because I took a clip from Vosh's or Tim Pool's interview with Vosh, where he directly lied about something. Now I'm sure the explanation will be, well, it wasn't a lie, it was just a mistake. And like that's okay, but you have to admit it's a mistake because it was a really glaring one. He called a 35-year-long celebrated and award-winning scholar in critical race theory, who is one of the most esteemed scholars in this field, whose work was cited for that. Did you hear about the Smithsonian thing that said like whiteness? Like it's like the Smithsonian put out this thing that said this print that said like whiteness is the ability to tell time. Like really stupid stuff on this printout. Really racist stuff in my opinion. And Vosh said that that some intern wrote it. And I was like, actually, it's this Jewish woman with 45 years of experience in this field who's one of the most award-winning scholars in the entirety of it. And it's like, you're just wrong about that. You're just wrong. And I'm sure, I'm going to get so much hate for that. I'm expecting that one. I might have to like shut down my Twitter or something just because you can't criticize that guy. You can't criticize him at all. His fans go nuts.
Oh, don't worry. You probably wouldn't have to shut yourself off at this point. Twitter and YouTube censor everybody.
Oh, right.
So you'll be fine.
Right. Well, we'll see what happens.
So that kind of goes into a question I had for you. How do you decompress from all of this research? Like you mentioned, you read comics and obviously anime and movies and stuff. But what is your go-to?
Oh, I find reading research extremely enjoyable. Putting together videos, like the editing process and stuff is a little stressful, although I also find it fun. But no, I am reading research is actually very
that is the decompressing almost.
That's the decompressing. I'm subscribed to a bunch of journals, and it's fun every time a new issue comes out and I get to go, oh, what came out this week? So I can't be into comics anymore because comics are trash. I mean, I'm still into old comics, but what is there new to read right now that's worth? I got blocked by Rick Remender the other day on Twitter. Why? Because he said everybody who voted for Trump was a murderous snake. And I said, hey, Rick, remember that time you took a picture with me? Remember that time you signed all of these comics for me? And, I was just poking at him. He got really butt blasted and just immediately blocked me.
You're watching it with fucking Pedro Pascal right now. That was a great move. Mandalorian season 2 is gonna look great now.
Oh yeah, gonna go real great now that you just insulted half of your audience. I'm sure that's gonna go over spectacularly. And the funniest thing is that after I got blocked by him, a bunch of his fans said, "Why do you even read Rick Remender's comics?" Like, because I like them.
Because he used to be good.
Yeah, he's still good. Like, just because that's the difference, right? I can separate somebody's politics from their art. They absolutely cannot. They cannot separate because they're what's her name from Mandalorian 2? Gina Carano. Yeah. Where now they're going after her. She needs to be deplatformed. She needs to lose her job because she's a conservative. And it's like, that's the difference here, guys.
They were
I can still enjoy
her.
your stuff.
They attacked her because she didn't put her pronouns in their Twitter profile. Like, that fucking means anything.
Oh my god.
I was like, are we really doing this? Like,
it's a fun world we live in. I mean, to be fair, this shit's been going on for a while. We're getting to see it in full force because everybody feels so much more emboldened.
I just don't get it.
I guess so. I had to put my pronouns in my bio the other day because somebody was like, well, I made fun of somebody for having them in theirs because they just said something really like rude to me, and I was just laughed at the fact that they just had fake pronouns in their bio too, like not real ones. So I was compelled to put them in mine. So we'll see if I can get attacked now. I don't know. I'm sure they can always tell somehow who's a real pronoun person and who's not.
When Gina did it, it was a beep bop boop. It's well done. No, I guess I don't want to take up too much of your time. It's been really awesome having you on.
Yeah, sorry I was late. It was completely
good.
Stupid fault.
No, I was just assuming you were sleeping. It's fine.
No, I don't sleep that late in the afternoon.
I guess I don't know if you want to plug your channel or anything before you head out. We're definitely going to put it in the description and make sure everybody knows to come bug you. You got your own channel for sure, and you also do EFAP from time to time. You just did a video with Anna, that Star Wars
and
girl,
I was on
right?
Star Wars Girl, and I was on with Yellow Flash last week. And who else's channel was I on recently? Oh, if you like PSA Sitch and Adam Frederick, I was on with them last week as well. This election season has been really busy. But I occasionally show up on other people's channels. But if you want to find me at my channel, and if you like long form mostly boring content. I won't. I'm not gonna
How
hype it
dare
up.
you? No, the
Mostly
the
boring.
editing keeps you very much engaged. I really do like how you balance.
Well, thank you, but probably only because there's a loud noise every 20 minutes, so you start to nod off and and there's the Simpsons clip or something. But it's Aydin and then Paladin. I have videos on Star Wars if you're more into the media stuff, but I do mostly cover social commentary and political stuff. So, yeah, check it out. Thanks for having me on, guys, and thanks for
thank
waiting
you
me.
for coming
fun.
on. Appreciate it. I
No, this is
apologize.
super
I
blast.
didn't talk as much as these other two because apparently I didn't realize the kids didn't have school today because it's Veterans Day, right?
Yes.
Is that what it is today?
Yes. Oh.
Yeah. So, yeah, they've been running around and I've been just trying to like mute my mic here and there.
Him and his literal daddy issues, if you will.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But I appreciate you coming on, and usually I do talk more.
No, sorry,
I
I just
really
feel like I
wanna
talked
dive-
everybody.
No,
you're
the
fine.
whole thing is I'm just kind of fangirling the whole time. Usually I'm tripping up on my words a little bit more, but I've been I felt like I knew what I was doing because I've been
He's an
pretty much
Aiden
just
stan. That's what he is. So.
yeah, boy.
I'd love to have you back on. It'd be cool to hear your thoughts more on Star Trek and shit later down the road. Are you
Oh,
currently
yeah.
watching the stuff they're putting out now, or no?
Oh no, I'm not a masochist.
Correct answer.
Hey, I gotta watch it because people want my opinion on this shit, even though I don't tell John.
I don't know what
Yeah,
I'd
he
have to
doesn't-
do. I'd have to like. I can't drink right now. I can have a little bit of fun, but I'm not supposed to be drinking. So like, I would, I think by necessity have to get so messed up to not want to jump out a window while trying
We'll
to.
just clockwork orange you.
I'm sure you've heard like spoilers though for like the shows and shit that have been out,
Well,
right?
I've watched everyone's reviews
Okay,
for everything
yeah.
but Lower Decks because I Lower Decks just looks like it would insult me so deeply as a lifetime Star Trek fan, as
Yeah.
a Vulcan-speaking kind of Star Trek nerd, like real Trekkie, been to the conventions. I have the signature of everybody from the original cast except for Jimmy Doohan because he
Oh.
died before I did it, and
Yeah.
except for Leonard Nimoy. I have everybody else on a signed picture, and I really wish I had the other two, but you know,
So
can't
you've
control
met
that stuff.
you've met William Shatner then?
Yes.
Ha-
I
how
mean,
did
met him
you
as
like-
in a line.
Well,
He went,
oh, okay.
oh my god, I love you. You know.
I was
that
gonna
kind of
say,
stuff.
how did he come off? Because there are a lot of people in the Trek community that just hate him for some reason. I'm confused by that one too. So
I mean, he comes off as braggadocious and
Yeah.
grandiose and gregarious as you would expect. My favorite one, and maybe this is a good place to end it, is that on the topic of the vaguely political stuff, is that one of my favorite times ever meeting somebody and going to see a speech from somebody, and this is quite famous. Trekkies probably know this story, but Nichelle Nichols, who played Uhura, her famous story is that she was at home and she, or excuse me, not Nichelle Nichols. So Nichelle Nichols' story is a little bit different. Nichelle Nichols' story was that she wanted to be in like series productions, and she was offered a role in Star Trek, and she didn't want to take it because she's like, this is some stupid thing where they throw big plastic boulders at you, and I don't know about this. And she went the weekend after she was first offered the role to a rally for Martin Luther King. And after the rally, she got a chance to speak with Dr. King, and she told him about Star Trek and like the premise of it. And he said, you have to do it. Don't you understand what he, meaning Gene Roddenberry, is trying to do? And that's why she took the role. And then the other cool story is Whoopi Goldberg, whose story is she was sitting in her living room and she saw Uhura on TV, and she ran into the kitchen and grabbed her mom's dress and said, Mom, there's a black lady on TV and she isn't anyone's maid. And so that's why Star Trek is awesome and why I love it. And it's stories like that that I think are important and not stupid stuff about that they're doing now in like Discovery and Picard about android rights and stuff that are very thinly veiled messages that don't actually mean anything.
Android rights. Didn't we do that in Solo?
they're
Didn't
doing
we do
it.
that? Didn't we do that in Next Gen?
Oh yeah.
They do it very heavy-handed too. Like they think they're being smart about it, and they're not. Like
Right.
it's original Trek had I forget what they call them, the white and black guys.
Right, yeah, I forget what the
on
name
each
of that
side, and they
species
were,
was.
if I look in the mirror, I hate myself because they see their enemy and shit. I was like,
Yeah.
that was awesome, and that was back in the freaking 60s. Come on,
Yeah,
like,
1968.
yeah,
You know?
it's so ridiculous. Like they can't do the same kind of stories and tackle the social issues, because the social issues are still the same today as they were then, basically.
Oh, yeah.
That they're trying to tackle, but they're just so heavy-handed with it. It's ridiculous. And then turning fucking Picard into an android was the dumbest goddamn thing they ever did.
Yeah, I don't know how you outdo original Trek by having people who literally have half of their faces black and half of their faces painted white, and you managed to outdo that story in political heavy-handedness.
Right,
I
right.
guess good job. Wow, I'm impressed. Impressed by the horribleness of it.
It's a master class of dumb.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. But yeah,
But-
Trek is just, yeah, it's Trek with a name, Trek.
Yeah, Trek TM, not Star Trek. It's some abomination.
I
And I mean,
really-
even like
Oh, go on.
even in comparison to like the terrible TNG movies, which were very much not Trek feeling.
Yeah.
Even they, I think, had some more value in terms of adding something at least to the characters that were pre-established than like undoing everything, which is what Picard is doing.
I think that's the only good thing. I think I even told John about Picard show was it gave Data a better send off than Nemesis did.
Oh, but that was terrible.
But-
Hard to do worse.
Right. And I think I felt more with it because that was my brother's like favorite character, and he's the one who got me into Trek back in the day. So I was like, okay, at least they got one thing in this entire season like that is okay. So let's look at the bright side, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, I guess I hate to do this to myself because this was embarrassing, but Aiden might get a fucking laugh out of it.
Oh.
Because I watched some of the Picard stuff. I couldn't stand it. And this was a get fucked me moment. Like, it just happened, like, right at the time. Because I'm sitting here, I'm like, they're doing all this really dumb shit. Like, I don't, like, the costumes look kind of dumb and the character stuff, ugh, I don't know what they're doing. And then you got some fucking dude with a samurai sword. It's retarded. What are we doing? Like, and he goes, Klingons had batliths. I go, wow, fuck. Like,
Oh, you mean Lego Loser?
yeah. That
don't
was
know
one of the
why-
first episodes I ever saw.
I don't know why that character is in it. It's just terrible. I mean, like, okay. Again, I used to be part of the Vulcan language project. So, like, I'm really big into the Vulcans. And whenever you screw with Vulcans or Romulans in Star Trek, I get particularly peeved. I
Yeah.
didn't like the first JJ movie because they blew up Takasia. That alone made me mad. But you know, and it was so contrived and stupid, and the red matter MacGuffin stuff was absolutely dumb. I actually liked Beyond the best of all of them because there was an attempt to make it a Star Trek movie.
That was like
Was
the one
it
that was the
good?
most original, right?
It was the one
Well,
where
Simon Pegg worked on
Simon
that
Pegg
one.
worked on it. Yeah, so it
Oh,
had
yeah.
Simon Pegg like Star Trek, whereas
Yeah.
all the other films felt like ugh.
And he still hated that movie.
Yeah. It's not good. There was an
Yeah.
attempt.
Yeah.
You know, there was
Pass.
an
It's
attempt.
like
I really
barely
I
passable.
really wish that they would have taken the fucking like Discovery and Picard and put those in the Kelvin timeline, so you know people don't
Right, so
feel
doesn't
like they're
count.
fucking with our other timeline. So
I think
Yeah.
their rationale behind that was that like everyone hates the Calvin timeline, so we have to get away from it.
I think there was like some
so-
issues with the the
Oh,
movie
probably that too.
and that shit. Yeah. So I think that's why they had to create the Kelvin timeline in the first place with the movies.
Oh, how silly of them
those
to
movies.
expect it might have been some sort of logical reason and not just a
Right.
money reason.
Right.
It's always money, right?
Right.
Oh man.
But yeah.
Yep. Hard sell.
Well,
So I guess usually we close out with a quote from you, correct,
me,
Michael?
yes. Today I'm not gonna quote a movie though. I'm gonna actually just quote a director. Not that I like the director. I just kind of thought the quote was kind
Whatever,
of cute.
simp. Whatever, simp.
Oh, it's from Stanley Kubrick.
Tucci? Stan Lee? What?
Is that's how you pronounce his last name, right? Is it Kubrick or
Yeah,
Kubrick?
I am not
I've
the person to ask.
Kubrick, but I have no idea.
I'm not a director person. Come on.
I failed at a really
says-
simple name last week.
Was that?
I said I failed at a really simple name last week. If you can't remember.
What was it? Andre?
Yeah.
He couldn't pronounce. Okay.
I added
anyways.
words or letters. I added letters.
All right. Well, my quote from Stanley Kubrick: "To see a film once and write a review is an absurdity. Yet very few critics ever see a film twice or write about films from a leisurely, thoughtful perspective. The reviews that distinguish most critics, unfortunately, are those slam bang pans, which are easy to write and fun to write and absolutely useless. There's not much in the critic showing off how clever he is at writing silly, supercilious gags about something."
And again, I am now aroused. Fantastic. Thank you, Aydin, for coming on.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Thanks for waiting for my slow ass.
Hey, it's all good. It was worth it. So hopefully this won't be the last time. But again, thank you so
Sure,
much.
anytime.
And, yep. Alrighty. And later, nerds.
You just finished another great episode of Operation Babble. You can catch every episode of Operation Babble on all your audio streaming services, including SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Radio Public, and more. Don't forget to like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Operation Babble, and join the conversation today by searching for the Operation Babble group on Facebook. Links also in the description. Don't forget to find Myke on all social platforms, including YouTube, by searching Myke Shrews, MYKESHREWS. You can find John on Instagram and YouTube via Bald Man Bad. Thanks and have a great day.